Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the August 3rd, 2015 regular meeting of the Milford Board of Aldermen. I'd like to, at this time, recognize Kathy Kennedy to start us off in the pledge in honor of Alan Jepson. And after the pledge, our dear friend Alan Jepson. Alan was a dedicated public servant who always put the people of the city of Milford, our state, and our nation first. He was a statesman, a gentleman, and a Milford treasure. We will all miss you, Milford, Mr. Milford.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Kathy. Madam Secretary, will you please take the roll?
Alderman Anderson?
Present.
Alderman Beer? Here. Alderman Casey?
Here.
Alderman Fontana? Here. Alderman Gurman? Here. Alderman Genatasio?
Here.
Alderman Golden?
Here.
Alderman Hardiman?
Here.
Alderman Kubek? Alderman Shaw? Alderman Smith?
Here.
Alderman Stanford? Alderman Beccarelli? Alderman Vitro?
Here.
Alderman Vitale? 15 present, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. We do have a quorum. The next portion of our meeting is devoted to public comment. Statements are limited to the legislative function of the Board of Aldermen. The time limit granted to each speaker shall be 3 minutes. Residents, taxpayers, and electors may address the board at this time. The board encourages speakers not to express derogatory, insensitive, or offensive statements, or to encourage any personal attacks against individuals. In order to allow everyone an opportunity to speak, I'd ask that everyone please limit their comments to 3 minutes. Anyone wanting to address the board can do so at this time. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lily Flanagan. I live at 38 Prospect Street. I have 3 comments. On behalf of Milford Preservation Trust, I compliment the mayor on his excellent selection, and I hope the board approves the new commission for Milford's Historic Preservation District. Second comment is relative to the patio by Eli's that they're requesting. I would prefer myself that the green space remain. And I think there's an unused patio over by Indigo's. And the third comment I have is I want to compliment the Department of Public Works. We had a tree fall down behind our house, right across the river behind St. Peter's Church. And the Department of Public Works came and removed the tree. They needed a boat, they needed a wood chipper. The tree just blocked the whole river. And they were efficient and professional, and I wanted to let you know what a good job they did. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Christina Roberts, owner of Cafe Atlantique. It has come to my attention that you have been told in various documents that there is no neighborhood opposition to the proposed Eli's patio. I'm here tonight to state otherwise. I have kept relatively quiet regarding the matter, hoping it would resolve itself in a respectful and neighborly fashion. But the Eli's group has decided to go another direction. With the hiring of Jim Amon and all of the media hype and negative focus, I decided I should state my thoughts. I'm opposed for these reasons. Number one, the green space is a gathering spot for all sorts of downtown activities. People ride their bike, rest in the park, mothers meet there with their children, set up blankets, and have lunch, bought by any downtown restaurant. Yoga classes meet there, and many other things. It adds an environment of welcome and community to downtown. Two, downtown has issue with the late-night bar business. There are meetings held, committees formed, police reports, and much communication in general regarding this issue. We have vandalism, public urination, pre-gaming in our parking lots, and so on. It is my opinion that outdoor space to increase capacity for this late-night business is unnecessary, as well as counterproductive to what we were trying to do downtown. Three, I am concerned the Eli's patio will negatively affect my business. The cafe has limited capacity inside, and the patio expands capacity, affording the opportunity to be a sustainable business. Eli's already has an advantage with large, ample seating indoors. The energy, look, and position of the cafe are instrumental to the success of it. I fear with an adjacent patio, a very different demographic would hinder the success, causing revenue hardship. And lastly, I would like to say that I wish Eli's much success and welcome them as a neighbor. But what isn't being said here or anywhere is the true reason that I believe they want the patio. 8 or 9 tables outside will not enhance their lunch and dinner business to the point of it not being crippled, which was what's stated in the papers. The true reason is so their late-night smokers and drinkers have somewhere to go. Right now, they must leave their drinks and smoke in front on the sidewalk. A patio would allow the smokers to go somewhere with their drinks in hand to smoke. This is what I believe to be the real reason they have been so forceful and political. This isn't just about selling more food. Thank you.
Good evening, board members, Chairman Vito, Vitro, and invited guests. My name is Bill Bevan, 23 Merlin Circle, and I'm here to speak in opposition to the deck that's been possibly proposed for this evening. Tonight you'll hear some people coming up here and they'll tell you the truth. Some will tell you lies. As you sit on this board, you've heard people come up and lie to you to get their way, and you've heard people come up and just give their opinion of rumors. One of the first items that brings up to mind is that at the corner of the coffee shop is a one-man music teacher. He has given me much concern of if the deck is put in there, he may or may not be able to fully give his lessons. His lessons run from approximately 12 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock at night. And with the late night business over there at 8 o'clock, he may not be able to conduct business. My other problem with the proposed deck is that down the road, there's a possibility of someone else putting in another deck that will take up the whole green area. That is another one of my concerns, is that the green area will be gone, the trees will be gone, and the 2 9/11 benches will be gone. The last thing is that you'll hear how the coffee shop has a deck already. And I think it's up to all the members of this board to check out how they actually got that deck or that patio, how it was assigned to them by the city, and the only way you will finally get a good answer to that would be to talk to the owner and possibly the mayor who was sitting at that time. The last and final thing is that I find it appalling that this has become a political agenda, to where you have Republicans against Democrats, to where you should be working together to make this city a better place. I am really upset at that, even though one of you is my own party. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Marty Reed, 30 Harborview Avenue. Lived in Milford for 50 years and had a business downtown for 38 years. We really have a little gem in that park between River Street and Daniel Street. There are beautiful trees and shrubs. People can wander, bring their children and their dogs, and then on a summer evening, listen to acoustic music, laid back. It's just a wonderful little park. I believe that paving, construction, digging, taking up some of the green that's there is just the wrong thing to do for that area. Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Ann Mayer, 50 Prospect Street. I'm a downtown resident, and I've actually had some personal experience with Eli's as it stands as a business today in terms of noise. I know we're not here to talk about noise, but I would like to draw the board's attention to a couple of different minutes that are part of the public record. The first would be the July 16th, 2013 public hearing, in which you can read a lot about the discourse that went on. I do believe there's actually one of the board members here tonight that was a member of the P&Z board at the time. Then I would like you to reference also the August 6th minutes, the decision for the August 6th minutes, at which time the majority of the discussion centered around approving this particular application without the patio, and the concerns that there would be, confusion, and there would be opportunity to come back, which obviously it appears there now is. There was also at that time discussion about the tables that were part of the original application, of which there were 6, which now all of a sudden have become 8. It's all there, and I would just encourage you all to read it. We have a wonderful downtown. That downtown is a result of many different things, the businesses, the merchants that are there, the restaurants, the people that come to visit, and the green space. Pocket parks are a real thing, and cities try to put them in. If we've got one, why are we looking to get rid of it? Thank you.
Steve Rathbun, 44 Prospect Street. Thank you. You're going to hear from a restaurant tonight who wants an outdoor patio. You're going to hear from a restaurant that said, when they presented to the Planning and Zoning on July 6th, 2013, there will be no music during dinner, after dinner. It is a restaurant, not a nightclub or dance club. And you're going to hear from them that they said they would be good neighbors. Well as we all know, there is very loud music until very late at night. It isn't, as they said, a dinner club, it is a nightclub. And they said they would be good neighbors. I personally was down there 1:30 in the morning last summer to ask why I was woken out of a sound sleep by the music. I got no answer other than, we will turn it down. They haven't. My partner was down there in October at 1 a.m. to ask the same thing. She was pretty much dismissed and brushed off. Since then, with Alderman Anderson's help, they have mostly kept the front doors and windows closed. It has helped some. My problem is not only with the patio, but mostly with the excessive noise pollution that escapes when the doors and windows are open. There is only a single door on the park side where they want their patio. I personally am not looking forward to being bounced out of a sound sleep late at night on a weekend by a loud booming bass. We have not had this problem with Stonebridge or any other restaurant downtown. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Nicholas Lombard, and I reside at 29 River Street. And I just wanted to briefly discuss the patio that is proposed to be outside of Eli's. I recently moved to Milford a little less than a year ago, and I have basically had to race to lease 29 River Street among the other interested parties to represent that, or to lease that space. And part of the reason why we had such an interest in that space is because the location is nothing short of ideal. I truly believe that to place a patio outside of Eli's in that space, that green space adjacent to the cafe, would destroy the idyllic charm that exists in that space. I think downtown Milford, as it stands right now, strikes the perfect balance between charm and a vibrant nightlife. Milford is well known for its vibrant nightlife, and I think it should continue the way it is without eroding that charm that exists all day and evening in downtown Milford. Second, I am concerned as a resident of 29 River Street that the noise and smoke that would probably emanate from such a patio would be a detriment to the enjoyment of my home. So for those reasons, I'm against the patio for Eli's. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Blake, members of the Board of Aldermen. My name is Alberta Jago, and I live at 1 Morningside Drive. And I've read some of the articles about the patio, and I have to say I am opposed to Eli's having a patio on that little parcel of land. I just think that having that green there is better for Milford. We don't need overdevelopment even down in that area. And when you drive down on a Friday night and see what goes on in that area, I don't see how that is good for our city. But there's a couple of other points I want to make. One is, some of you, I've heard, are concerned that maybe it's going to hurt them financially, hurt Eli's financially, if they don't get to put these tables outside. I want you to think about one of the best restaurants in this city that's right around the corner, that doesn't have any parking, that doesn't have a patio. And my husband and I went down there on Saturday night, and there was a line going up Daniel Street, and I'm talking about 7 C's. And I mean, that is a success story. And they could have a success story if they provide the best food at the best prices. And Mr. Smith, who is the owner of 7 C's, is a longtime resident of Milford who knows the people and knows what they like. And that's a success story, and that's what they could have too. The other thing I want to comment on is what Mr. Bevan mentioned earlier. The quote that it was a political issue between Mayor Blake and me. And I want to tell you, I have nothing but the greatest respect for our mayor, but we have no political deal going on. He's trying to do and say what he thinks is best for the city. And it didn't have anything to do with me. He's talking from his heart, as he does on all of the issues. And I just think it's a shame that he's being criticized politically because he disagrees. And I also want to mention that Jimmy Amon and I have been friends. I went over to him tonight and said to him, we've been friends for over 30 years. He worked on all my campaigns, I worked on all of his, and my kids worked on his. And I have nothing but the greatest respect and admiration for him. He's trying to do his job, but we have a strong difference of opinion on this issue, and I hope we're going to remain friends after that. But I just think that most of these people who have been here tonight, I haven't heard anybody that say they're in favor of it. So I thank you for listening, and the mayor is doing what he believes is right. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Jim Amon, 515 Popes Island Road. This was a very interesting evening already. I can assure you that Mr. Chardello, if he wanted to orchestrate a circus here tonight, he could have done that. We have well over 400 signatures of people that would like to have a patio there. It's amazing to me that we're going to this lengths over a patio, which, by the way, downtown, every restaurant that I know of in Milford, maybe Seven Seas might be an exception, has some sort of patio or tables, many of them out on the sidewalks. In fact, the new taco stand, amazingly, after I met with John Bertram the other day, as I'm driving home, he's putting out 3 tables across from Cafe L'Antique. I understand that people that move downtown, and I'm very, very happy that they did, find it to be a beautiful downtown as I do. I've lived here all my life. Many of you are my friends for years. But you know what? You moved downtown knowing you had Stonebridge and Seven Seas and all the other great successful restaurants, which, by the way, we mostly supported over the years. We wanted to have a lively downtown. We have a reputation all over Connecticut and even New York now of having a very, very vibrant and successful downtown. So when I hear people, with all due respect, complaining about noise and also smoke, I understand that. That's not about the patio. If those issues exist, as the Mayor Blake is my friend too, but as the leader of the city, he has an obligation to solve problems. Bring the parties in. If the people have an opposition to Eli's, let's bring the parties together and work out the smoke problems, the noise problems, all these things that continue to grow. In all due respect to everybody that came up here and spoke, Mr. Ciardello went through the process here in Milford, step by step by step. He talked about the patio. There's been an existing allowance for that patio going back as far as 2005 with Richie Conine, who actually paid lease money on that for years. So the existence of that has been something that was never denied him through the whole process. Nobody complained to him, got mad at him, told him he shouldn't be doing this. He went through the process. He has invested over $1.7 million in this town, and I don't think he's been treated right by this city. If there's a problem with him and Eli's, then the mayor has an obligation to resolve it. Up in Hartford, when I was Speaker of the House and the governor had a problem, that's why, when they couldn't get to the governor, the executive branch, that's why you have a legislative body. People to appeal to have a discussion, an honest discussion. Somebody got up here and said about lies. I want to know about lies, because I've been hearing a lot of different stories. Every time my client gets close to getting where he thinks he's going to get at least a discussion on this, as I said, the ball moves. My last comment, because I could stay up here all night. I'm so aggravated about this. We're not talking about building an Eiffel Tower downtown Milford. We're talking about putting a patio where, in all due respect to Cafe L'Antique, she, in my opinion, shouldn't even be complaining about anything. She has one. God bless her. I love the place. I go there. I enjoy it. But for her to oppose it next to her, in my opinion, is wrong. The other people have problems. Let's try to resolve them. We had a call from Mayor Herbst when he read the paper.
Mr. Amon.
Excuse me, sir.
You're up to 4 minutes.
I am.
Wrap it up.
I apologize. Mayor Herbst called us, texted us, said, you want to have a patio? You want Eli's in Trumbull? Come here tomorrow. We'll help you. Orange, he got through the process a couple months ago without a problem. He doesn't understand, and nor do I, why we can't resolve this very minute problem of somebody that wants a patio, just like every other establishment around him and all over the city of Milford. Thank you, Chairman. I didn't know I was going on that long.
Good evening. My name is Richard Ciardello. I am the owner of 21 Daniel Street and Eli's Tavern. I'll start by saying I guess I missed the ball and I didn't have my constituents here to talk for my favor, but maybe next meeting. It seems like I'm going to be here again, and I'll be here every month until we get this thing resolved. I purchased this building, and when I purchased the building, so I could give you the background, and I'll try to keep this within 3 minutes to the best of my ability, Chairman. I purchased the building, and I went and saw the proper heads of the departments to make sure that the patio was a viable thing at that location, because it was approved in the past, and it was sold to me by the prior owner that there was a patio improvement. So that's what I went and did. And I was assured by the zoning people that there was no problem with a patio. I do not agree with what some of the things that were said today, and one of them was the reason zoning didn't approve the patio is because they said I needed a lease before I could come to zoning and get a patio approved. It wasn't because they didn't like the patio. And for the last year, I've been trying to get through the process of getting in front of you all to ask to have a vote on a lease. I'm asking for the same lease with the same language that Mr. Conide had. I not only cannot get on the agenda, but for some reason, Mayor Blake doesn't seem that it's the right thing to do to allow me to come and speak about this. Because now we're asking for the third month in a row that we've been sitting out here to have it be brought up under new business or whatever it may be brought up for. I don't understand how politics works. I don't understand how government works, but I think I'm a smart enough guy to understand that this committee here, this Alderman board, should be for the people, and it should at least be able to be brought up and have a vote. That's what we're here for, I believe. So they could come up and speak the way they want to speak. I will say one thing that is totally, we have in our packet, that I've sent you all a packet, correct, last month. Everybody have a chance to read it, hopefully. The patio is for dining and closes at 10 o'clock. We are a no-smoking restaurant. There is no smoking in our restaurant, including on the patio. I have 5 other locations, all with patios, all non-smoking patios, and all close at 10 o'clock when our kitchen closes. So, you know, I'm not a one restaurant guy in and out. Anybody could go visit any of our other restaurants and the other patios at the other restaurants. Hamden, they have our patio on the sidewalk 3 feet from Whitney Avenue. I don't understand sometimes why people want to sit outside, but it's very important to our business. And all I'm asking is for what was presented to me as being viable when I bought the building, and I'm asking for the board to hear it. One last comment I'd like to make in closing is there was a comment in the paper by Mayor Blake that said that I'm a wealthy guy that hires lobbyists and we can't back down to lobbyists or wealthy people in our town. Well, that is as far from the truth as possible. I'm a businessman that is trying to make a profit in a building that Mr. Amon was mistaken, and I spent $2.4 million after the renovation and the addition on the building. I am not a rich person that has money to throw around. I'm here to make a living. I'm here to stay. I hope I increased the downtown area and that people like to go to it. I certainly increased the look of the building, the alleyway of the building. It certainly is a better appearance building. Okay? And the reason I hired Mr. Amon was clearly because I consulted in Chairman Vitro, and he suggested I not hire an attorney, that I'm better off hiring someone like Mr. Amon, not him exactly, but someone that would guide me through the process and understand how politics works, because it's political. And that's how politics work. I don't want to know. I don't want to understand politics. I'm just a businessman looking for my fair shake. So I didn't go hire a lobbyist because that's the way I do things. I didn't even know what a lobbyist was before I got involved with Milford. So I appreciate it. I would really appreciate it if you all would bring it up for a discussion and you would ask me questions and allow me to speak so I could explain what really is going on here. It's not for a smoking area. It's not for all the things that you heard. It's not the case. And I'm a man of my word. When I say something, it's what I do. Thank you.
Would anybody else like to address the board at this time? Sorry. Seeing none, Alderman Vecchiarelli, agenda item number 3, consideration of minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of the Board of Aldermen held July 6, 2015.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Agenda item number 4, there was no special meeting. Item number 5, Chairman's report. I'd just like to ask for all your thoughts and prayers for Alan Jepson and his family at this sad time. That's all I have. Item number 6, agenda item number 6 is Mayor's report and recommendations. Is there a report from the Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to follow up on that sentiment. We lost a Milford treasure this past week in our city. To me, he was a mentor and a friend to all of us. He was a statesman and a gentleman of the highest degree. On behalf of the entire city of Milford, our thoughts and prayers do go out to the Jepson family, to his 5 daughters. Mr. Chairman, there are several board and commission appointments this evening. I'd ask for your consideration. I'd also ask for your consideration and action on those items listed under Mayor's report, items 8A through item 8J. Mr. Chairman, or members of the board, if you have any questions throughout the pendency of the meeting, I'm happy to answer those to the best of my ability.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Agenda item number 7, there is no unfinished business. Moving on to new business, Alderman Vecchiarelli, agenda item number 8A.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the request for the appointment of the following members to the Milford Historical Preservation Commission. Michelle Kramer of 104 West River Street, a 5-year term, initial term expiring 12/31/19. Art Polson, 10 Pond Street, 5-year term, initial term expiring 12/31/18. Carol Malloy Smith, 21 Green Street, 5-year term, initial term expiring 12/31/17. William Silver, 55 Governors Ave, 5-year term, initial term expiring 12/31/16. Carter Coulter, 258 Guelph Street, a 5-year term, initial term expiring 12/31/15. An alternate, Joe Tamuda, 10 Stone Manor Drive, a 5-year term, initial term expiring 12/31/19.
Motion was made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Oh, excuse me, Alderman Frank Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just briefly, Mr. Chairman, I would like to acknowledge and give credit to the naming of these individuals to go on this, really the new Historic Preservation Commission. This board took this matter up earlier this year to establish the Historic Preservation Commission. There was some concerns about overarching regulation of residences, but I think I don't know every one of the people that have been named to this board, but I know several of them, including Michelle Kramer, including Mr. Paulson and several others, and I can't think of a more informed, more publicly sensitive group of people that to take up the very important business of the historic preservation in a city that's over 375 years old. I think it's in good hands, and I certainly endorse and recommend approval of the nomination and approval of these 5 individuals. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Alderman Smith. Next item number.
We got to vote on it.
That was under discussion.
Yeah, we got to vote.
Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli, agenda item number 8B.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the request for the appointment of Kristen McInnes, 60 Point Lookout, as a member of the Pension and Retirement Board to fill the present vacancy, a 3-year term expiring 12/31/17.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli, agenda item 8C.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the request for the appointment of Kara Flannery, 41 North Street, as a member of the Milford Government Access Television Committee, MGAT, to fill the present vacancy, a 2-year term expiring 12/31/16.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli, agenda item 8D.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the request for the appointment of Ellen Beatty of 194 Centennial Drive as a member of the Transit District Advisory Board to fill the present vacancy, a 2-year term expiring 12/31/16.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli, agenda item 8E.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the request for the appointment of J. Andrew Benvalaka, 5 Usher Street, as a member of the Flood and Erosion Control Board to fill the present vacancy, a 5-year term expiring 12/31/17.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. At this time, will all of the newly confirmed board and commission members come to the front of the auditorium to be sworn in by our city clerk?
After I swear you in, if you would just sign that you, okay, great. I got it. Good. If you could raise your right hand for me. Do you solemnly swear or sincerely affirm that you will uphold your duties and responsibility on your prospective boards in the city of Milford, so help you God, or under the pain or penalty for perjury or false statement? Okay, congratulations.
Alderman Vecchiarelli, agenda item 8F.
Mr. Chairman, I move for the approval for the attached recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Board dated July 10th, 2015 for the approval of the proposed land swap with the Woodruff family YMCA in accordance with the attached draft plan of boundary line modification prepared by BSC Group dated June 19th, 2015.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Alderman Giannattasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you. Good evening to the members of the board. Through you to Mayor Blake. Mayor Blake, now that we've taken care of this land swap issue, when is this actually slated to be developed, these fields? Because this has been on the back burner for a long time.
It's not on the back burner by any stretch of the imagination. The engineers, the team that has been overseeing this, the building committee, which consists of an engineer, a doctor. In fact, our chief medical advisor, Dr. Carlson, is the chairperson of this committee, as well as an attorney, have been very diligent in seeing this and moving this forward. They are in design right now. The hope is that if this land transaction can happen within the next month, that this will be ready to go by next spring of 2016. We are at the mercy to some degree of both the YMCA board as well as the banks who hold mortgages on this property. They all have to approve this transaction as well. It has gone through the local YMCA board. It's been approved. It's gone through the regional board, and there's one more additional YMCA board that needs to give its blessing before the approval happens on their end. This has gone through the 824 process on our side. The Planning and Zoning Board has approved it, and it is before you this evening to again give your blessing. Which this will allow us to do is to have two fields that are facing north and south. If we do not have this land swap move forward, we're going to have to reconfigure the fields so that at least one of the fields is going to be facing east-west. And anyone who plans fields or designs fields will tell you that that's not ideal, that the sun comes up and blinds the goalkeepers, blinds the place kickers when they're going for a field goal. It's just not ideal to have multi-purpose fields going east and west. The preferred design is north-south, and this will allow us to do this. The proposed land swap is for that section of property that is on the northernmost end of the YMCA that the city presently owns, that road that goes into the YMCA right now, and we will be swapping for the area that directly abuts our Orange Avenue property. Again, I think it's a win-win for both the city of Milford and the YMCA, and ultimately it will create a real dynamic place for youth sports, adult sports, and recreation and wellness in the city of Milford. Really a hub of recreation and wellness that the city doesn't have presently. It's going to be one of those gems in our city that we really do need to create, and I'm hopeful that it's going to be ready for the spring of 2016.
Just to follow up, Mr. Chairman, Mayor Blake, I know that we bonded this money almost 2 years ago, and we had a conversation when Dr. Carlson was before us about the turf that we were going to use. And from that point, I thought it was moving forward. Why weren't these designs discussed prior to? Why is this holding up the process? Because these fields should have been already installed, and they should be being used right now, presently. That's my point. And my question is to you, is whose responsibility is it going to be to maintain these fields? Is that going to be our Public Works Department? Are they going to be maintaining these fields?
These are city fields. These will be maintained by the city of Milford. There will be a specialized type of maintenance program that's involved. Again, these are not grass fields that will be cut like our other remaining fields. We do have our recreation director here with us this evening. He has been an ex officio member of the building committee. He's been at every single building committee meeting. He knows a little bit more about the turf maintenance than I. I'm certainly willing to ask Mr. Pescatelli to come up to give a little bit more insight in terms of what actually is involved with the turf maintenance. There is maintenance involved. There is not as much as a regular grass field, obviously, because turf doesn't grow and they don't need to be cut, but there is some type of upkeep, and obviously there's garbage that gets generated when you have any type of big sporting event or recreation activity. So there is the normal day-to-day maintenance that goes along with any type of open space or recreational space in the city.
If Mr. Piscatelli could approach the podium, I do have a question in regards to the fields. I'm under the impression that these fields need to be brushed as a source of maintenance. And my second question, more importantly, is I've actually did the change down at Jonathan Law on the turf fields, and I know that these are all-purpose fields, and I'm assuming that Pop Warner is going to be able to use these fields maybe for practice or games down the road. I don't know if that's been discussed, but do these fields have hash marks like on a football field?
Mr. Chairman, through you to Alderman Giantassio. The maintenance on these fields, you are correct, they do need to be brushed or top dressed, similar to how natural sod would be top dressed with seed and sand. These fields would be top dressed with the rubber pellet sand mixture that goes in between the fibers of the turf. And there's a machine that does that, usually on a yearly basis. There is also the opportunity to, when you do develop some low spots, which is a rare occurrence during the play, that you go out with a bucket and a broom and you throw the pellets onto the field and you just sweep them in with a push broom. In regards...
And we have the machine, the proper equipment, obviously, to maintain this?
We are working on the acquisition of the machine. We're also working with the Board of Education, who currently has a maintenance plan in place for their 2 turf fields, to see if it is something we can do cooperatively with them. And you know, as soon as we know that, I'll get more information on where we're going along with that.
Mr. Piscatelli, on the field itself, I know it's multi-purpose. Can you share with the board members what sports are going to be played and what the lines are going to look like on these fields?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, again, through you to Alderman Giantassio. The fields are going to be spec'd out for soccer, lacrosse, both men and women, because they're different size fields with different marketing, football with hash marks and yard lines, and the field is also going to be staked out for the future expansion of field hockey, which is a sport that many high schools now are playing. Laurelton Hall is playing it. There's a lot of summer camps now being run for field hockey. So field hockey is the next up-and-coming sport. And when the board approved this project, that was one of the considerations of the growing number of sports that we have. To your question directly about Pop Warner, yes, the fields will be available for their use as well. The addition of these fields will greatly help take the burden off of our other athletic fields in town, and will also allow the Public Works Department to provide maintenance on those existing fields to get them back into condition. Currently, our fields have no rest period, and turf managers recommend that fields should be taken out of rotation, just like a farmer takes his field out of rotation. Athletic fields should have the same, and currently in Milford, we do not have that luxury. So this will be a great opportunity to have some new state-of-the-art first-class fields, and then we'll also give our Public Works Director and his staff the opportunity to fix our current fields so that every field in Milford is something that everybody looks forward to playing on.
Thank you for your explanation, and thank you for the hard work that you do for the city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alderman Beer.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, just a quick question, Paul. We're keeping the 2 fields that exist now in front of the Y, is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, through you to Alderman Beer. We're keeping the one large grass field that is there at the YMCA. The smaller field is going to become more of a grassy knoll picnic area in order to accommodate the 2 turf fields, and with the land swap, the smaller field will be removed, but we will have 3 full-size fields there.
Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you. Good evening, Paul. First question is, I know there was a committee set up, et cetera. Why was the choice turf over grass?
Mr. Chairman, through you to Alderman Vitale. The playability that synthetic turf offers over grass is much more beneficial to the city. The high school fields now, which are entering their 12th and 13th year, I believe, respectively, have allowed a great number of games, practices, and other activities to be held where a normal grass field would not be able to do that. You remember years where Thanksgiving Day football games had been canceled due to field conditions, and with the installation of the turf, you get more usable hours of play. And I mentioned how a field should rest every year. It's also recommended that a football field usually get about $25,000 a year in maintenance costs to maintain it to safe standards. I don't believe the Public Works budget for field maintenance totals $25,000. So if you start looking at the number of fields we have and their budget, for them to do a complete overall maintenance on all those fields is just not financially feasible. So that's why we selected synthetic turf.
Just a follow-up, Mr. Chairman. Okay, and it wasn't a very obvious question, because if you remember back to 12 or 13 years on those fields at Foreign and Law, there were a lot of problems, and they're just being ironed out very soon after that. It took a long time to iron things out, but there are pros and cons to the artificial turf, and you know, for the safety and welfare of kids playing on artificial turf, there could have been a lot more advantageous to use the grass as the composite or the field. So the cost effectiveness between buying machines, and I think it's more than one, I may be wrong, but I think it's more than once a year that it has to be refreshed and refurbished, and I think there's a high maintenance too, and not unless things have changed in that artificial turf universe, but the fact remains that have we taken into consideration the safety and welfare of kids playing on that artificial turf where it's harder, the surfaces are harder and more abrasive? Can you just walk me through that kind of decision making, please?
Mr. Chairman, through you to Alderman Vitale, when we discussed the bonding of these fields, Dr. Carlson had come that time and spoke on the safety issues that and studies that he found. And if I remember correctly, he stated that the ligament damage injuries are less on synthetic turf fields, and that there's been many studies where the injuries that you see on grass fields don't occur on the synthetic turf fields.
Okay, and the cost effectiveness is really great. There's a great difference between the turf and the cutting of the grass and sodding and whatever?
Yes. You know, as I mentioned, they recommend $25,000 a year maintenance on one football field. And so we have, you know, probably 6 fields that we're talking about that we play on currently that are not getting $25,000 a year, and that their conditions are at times unsafe, where we close the field and we don't allow people to play.
Okay, and I thank you for all that, the comments, but I could remember that the poor drainage and everything else, and the way even natural fields are being drained and built today, that there's good drainage and so forth. So you know, hopefully we learn from our mistakes on those other fields, and that we can get a superb playing field for these kids in the future. So thank you for all your work and the committee's work. And I'm sure the YMCA will be a good neighbor. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, through you, I don't mean to belabor this point, but one of the other bases for pursuing a turf or a synthetic field is that it gets so much more use. We are supposed to rest a natural grass field 1 out of the 4 or the 3 seasons throughout the course of a year. But in addition to that, grass fields should not be played on more than 16 to 20 hours a week. And a turf field, a synthetic field, has the ability to be played on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So you get a lot more use out of it. You get a lot more wear and tear that you're allowed to schedule game after game on a turf field, whereas grass fields have to rest, and they get beat up very easily.
Alderman Kubek.
Yes, hi, through you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Piscatelli, on the heels of Mr. Vitale's concern about the safety of the turf materials, I'm wondering about the actual materials that that comprise the turf, the rubber pellets and all of that, because I know that in the past few years there's been some concern and controversy about fields, the safety of those materials, especially when, like, soccer players or other players are in constant contact when they fall, you know, inhaling any of the, I don't know if there's any chemicals involved. Can we be assured that the materials in this turf are the latest, greatest iteration in light of the concerns about possible cancer hazards, et cetera, of always being in contact with those types of materials?
Mr. Chairman, through you to Alderman Kubek. The fields are going to be the latest and greatest technology in synthetic turf. The Astrodome years ago in Houston was the first synthetic turf indoor baseball stadium, and it was like playing on concrete. Turf has evolved now to where it's a much plusher style, for lack of a better way to show you how it's evolved. There are those studies out there that claim there are cancer-causing agents in synthetic turf, and there's just as many studies out there that tell you that they do no harm. Currently, in Connecticut, the Department of Health has not come down one way or another on their findings on synthetic turf, and we're working with Dr. Carlson on our committee, who's very well aware of illness and problems that may occur, to be sure that we do our best to make that minimal chance of that ever occurring.
Thank you.
Any more discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Alderman Vecchiarelli, agenda item 8G.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the request for the attached resolution, a grant application for a consolidated housing and community development plan.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Alderman Anderson.
Noted that the Director of Economic and Community Development is in the audience. And along with the CDBG administrator, so I'd just like to ask a couple questions, please.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, what we're unfamiliar, or at least I am.
That's okay.
Speaking for me, I don't want to speak for the board.
My name's Sheila Dravis. I'm the new CDBG coordinator. I've worked in the office since 1999. Mm-hmm.
Very nice to meet you.
Thank you.
I'm wondering what the challenges were in meeting the funding objectives this year, whether there were any new agencies that were funded or new activities that were funded, and how does this year's allocation compare with last?
Well, this year's allocation was $8,000 more than last year, a slight uptick. Recently, in the last 10 years, it's been a 30% decrease, so that was nice. Challenges? This year we funded several public works direct projects, one being curb cuts, ADA, so we're spending more money there. We also went towards what's something we've never done before, which is pump stations. Due to Storm Sandy, we became quite apparent to the town, the Hazard Mitigation Committee, that there were problems with low-lying areas and wastewater area and pump stations. So we are actually funding the elevation of generators and the equipment that go along with that. So that's one new project. That's in-house. Outside, we did expand, and we did get several different applications, but some of them were duplications of what we've already done, and were agencies that worked outside of the city, weren't established in the city with the current population. So.
Thank you very much for the update. I apologize for not having known
worries.
you. We hadn't met previously.
No worries. Glad to be
Okay.
here. Mm-hmm.
Alderman Giannattasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. Good evening, Ms. Dravis. It's also a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
My question is, this grant application, is your salary still provided through this grant?
Yes. I am funded 100% through the grant. Health, fringe, whole kit and caboodle.
Okay.
Nothing's changed.
I had that feeling. I just wanted to confirm that. I really wasn't 100% sure.
Sure.
But I'd just like to congratulate you on your new position.
Thank you very much. I'm
Thank
happy to
you.
be here.
Any more discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Sheila.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you for the information. Alderman Vecchiarelli, agenda item 8H.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the request for the attached resolution regarding a cash advance for local capital improvement program assistance for 2014.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli, agenda item 8I.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the request for the attached resolution regarding a cash advance for a municipal and state agency electric vehicle, EV, charging station reimbursement program.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Alderman Giannattasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the Finance Director. Good evening, Peter. This is through your request, and this is for audit purposes only, that you want to classify this money. Is this the money down the road that we would realize through the purchase of the electricity being used from the charging station?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Alderman Giannattasio, yes, the expectation is that since this grant is being made on a reimbursable basis, this cash advance will enable the Public Works Department, the city, to go ahead with the purchase of the necessary equipment and then afterwards apply for reimbursement from the state.
And the revenue eventually, I think we have a 3-year period where we cannot charge, but moving forward, would that go into this account as well? Or would we set up an additional account?
We would probably have to have a discussion at that point to decide whether the money would go into the general fund or in a special revenue account.
Okay, just for procedural purposes, why wasn't this, why didn't we approve this account when we approved the acceptance of the grant originally last month?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Mayor.
I can answer that. This is a relatively de minimis amount of money, $10,000. There was discussion between myself, the Public Works Director, about funding this through the normal operating budget and then getting reimbursed because it was only up to $10,000. We've had, just to make sure, a discussion with the auditors and our Finance Director, and there was a recommendation that it would be cleaner to establish a specific account that could be reimbursed. So we are taking the recommendation of our auditors. Again, the GFOA has cited the financial practices of the town of Milford. as being the highest level of quality, and we want to maintain that. And so we are heeding the recommendations and advice of our auditors and our finance director. And again, even though this is a relatively small amount of money that we could fund through our operating budget in order to make it a cleaner transaction, we are establishing this specific cash advance.
Thank you, Mayor Blake. I think that's the first time you actually answered one of my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Any more questions? Alderman Gertleman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the mayor. Mr. Mayor, can you just share with us or the viewing public on where the stations will be located, the electric charging stations?
Again, these are the first two that the City of Milford will be installing, and the grant application that we have approved and that we have put into the Department of Environmental Protection is funding this grant. They will be placed near the basketball courts behind Fowler Field, behind the library, and there will be 2 charging stations.
Any more questions? Alderman Anderson.
Not a question, but a statement through you to members of the board. I noticed on a recent trip to Trader Joe's that there's an electric charging station located in the parking lot there. If anybody wanted to actually see how it would operate, and we know about the Tesla locations that are at the service stations along the turnpikes, but there's one more locally in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Anderson. Any more questions on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli, agenda item 8J.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the request for the attached agreement between the City of Milford and a United Illuminating Company concerning paving projects at Woodmont Road, Oakgate Lane, Redbush Lane, and Roses Mill Lane. And the authorize the Public Works Director, City Attorney, and Mayor to take all steps necessary to effectuate said agreement.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Alderman Giannattasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, I see the Public Works Director in the audience. Mr. Saley, if you could please approach the podium. Mr. Saley, can you just give the board members a background on this?
Yes, we're coming before the alderman to get approval, similar to what we did at the Point Beach Drive area. A lot of times when the utility work is done, they'll do a gutter line to center line of the road, so half the road will be done. We've negotiated with the UI for them to write us a check, and that gives us the opportunity to do the whole road, and we'll manage the whole project, and we'll use our state pricing, which is the most competitive pricing we can do for the work.
That's why I asked you to speak, because I really want to commend you publicly in this effort to handle it in this manner, to give us complete control. And, you know, we always love when people, you know, give us checks. So well, it helps. Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure, furthermore, that this is going to cover the cost and then some?
Well, the way it works, we're still going to have to fund our portion, but we get very competitive rates to do the work. The area that we're looking to, and we're waiting for two of the contractors to give us pricing to just confirm everything, because we've given them the scope of the work. But one of the areas that we're looking to do is underneath the 95 corridor. Even though I was under the impression that it was a state road, it's actually not. It's a city road. There's a lot of traffic in that area, so that's part of the issue. We're looking to expand what we've done down there, and it's a major throughway, so through street. So we want to really clean it up with this project.
Thank you, Mr. Saley.
Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, Mr. Saley. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr.
Point Beach. That's not being completed because we haven't approved this, or I know it's changed my bike riding route, but
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the whole question.
The Point Beach Road, has been milled, but has for a long time it hasn't been paved. Was that pending tonight's outcome?
No, that was a whole different project that you already given us authorization to do. If you notice, we started to do some drainage work down there. I explained that what happened was the water company milled it without approval, so there was an issue. We're waiting for deep approval to fix the outfall pipes down there and fix the drainage projects, but we've started to fix the catch basins. That's the first step in this process, and then repair the pipes. The city will be repairing the pipes on that area, hopefully in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Then we'll do a temporary patch, and then we'll hopefully pave it either late this fall or in the spring. The most critical part is making sure that we let the road settle properly, so if there's any settlement issues, that we don't pave it and have a sinkhole.
My big concern is, as you know, that's our route for folks on spokes. Do you think that will be ready by the 27th of September?
I will know better probably by the middle of August, or late August, and we can have a discussion with you and we can go over that. I wouldn't want to put that down as a firm date to say yes, because you never know what might happen.
I'd appreciate if you can get to me so that we can either reroute or make adjustments. Thank you.
That's one of the areas we're looking to do, is we're looking to repave Palm Point over there. And part of the issue is we're waiting for some sidewalk work to be completed, which hasn't been done. So that is a rough road also.
Mr. Chairman.
Alderman Anderson.
Thank you. Through you. I just wanted to reinforce Alderman Vitale's line of questions with regard to Point Beach, because there was a representation made, Mr. Saley, that the work would be completed by fall in the Point Beach area, and that was what was represented to residents. Has that changed?
It might. We're looking at it right now with where the progress is at the present time. We obviously were delayed a little bit with the drainage projects. We've been delayed with working with the permitting process. So I would say right now I anticipate it being farther along, and we're not. So I would say that might be a potential that we might have to adjust that timeline.
Alderman Shaw.
And I know we're way off topic for what this is, and I don't want to delay it, but I would be remiss if I didn't get back to you and say something close to, it's not going to work very well for the Point Beach area, is there? I thought when we spoke we could move this up a date, so there's actually a roadway, there from what has been removed.
You're talking in the one area that they milled?
Yes, that area.
I did say we're going to do a temporary patch.
Got it.
It's not going to be a permanent patch. It's going to be a temporary patch.
And when would that be done? I'm sorry.
As soon as we're done with the pipes.
Which is?
If I give you a firm date and it doesn't happen, you'll say you didn't honor it. We've learned with when you're in water, and that's what we're in down there, we're putting 4-foot sumps down. We're replacing the piping. We're trying to be, respectful for the neighbors in the area, so we don't have a lot of equipment down there. We're doing it with a smaller crew. We would anticipate. I spoke with my highway foreman actually tonight. So we anticipate once the final catch basin's in that we will be doing the pipe work sometime after that, which in the next, I would hope, a week and a half to 2 weeks.
I appreciate your patience with me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alderman Giannatasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, Mr. Saley, I just want to make sure that you leave on a good note, okay? All these streets that are before us, Red Bush Lane, Roses Mill Lane, and Woodmont Road are all in my district, and I can't thank you enough. Thank you.
Anytime.
Any more discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Chris. Next item, number 9 on the agenda. New business not on the agenda, which may be introduced by a 2/3 vote of these members present and voting. Alderman Beer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I would like to bring up a new agenda item. At a time in Connecticut here, we have a lot of businesses leaving, people packing up, going away, business owners complaining that we're not a business-friendly state, and we have somebody coming into Milford willing to invest over $2 million into a business. And when he came to town, he met with a lot of people and had assurances that the patio that was previously approved would be approved again for his business. After about a year of runaround, a lot of it, from what I understand, I can't be for sure, from the mayor's office, he's gotten nowhere. He's talked to different people on this board, different people on P&Z. He's told, you know, it's going to happen, or you don't need to go to this board for that, you know, and it's just every time he takes a step, he has to take 2 steps backwards. And I don't think this is the best representation of Milford, and it's not really a good representation, in my opinion, for the city that I grew up as well, that we're not business friendly and we're not good people to work with. And more disappointing is that we're not honest people to work with. If somebody comes in town and they're going to invest money and they talk to somebody and they're told one thing by a public official, that should be honored, and not a month later or a week later change the rules. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's the way we should do business. I understand that it is a green area right now, but in 2005, this green area was offered as a patio. And I do think it would be an improvement to the downtown area. I don't want it to be a smoking patio. I've been told it's not going to be a smoking patio. I cannot believe the sound from 2 front doors at Eli's can be any greater than a huge patio at Stonebridge. We had neighbors complain from Prospect Street, that's adjacent to Stonebridge, that they don't hear Stonebridge, but they hear Eli's music. I find that hard to believe. I also think maybe with this patio, the front doors will be closed. Maybe the side doors will be open. Maybe that'll alleviate some sound. We heard many people speak in opposition to this patio. I can't say for sure, but it seemed like they were, you know, patrons of Cafe Atlantique, who has had a patio for $1 for many years. And those beautiful acoustic music festivals and things like that, those aren't city funded, those aren't free. They're funded by Cafe Atlantique, who does a great business. And I think more business and more vibrant is good for her business. I don't see
Mr.
how
Chairman,
this is
can I
gonna
have a
work.
point of order, please?
Point of order,
Sure.
Mr. Alderman Beer. What is your new business at this
The
point?
new business is, I would like to propose that the Board of Aldermen approve the same lease that was proposed and approved in 2005 for the owners of Daniel Street. We do the same exact lease for the owners of Eli's Tavern.
Can I hear a second? Well, we hear a motion. First of all, the motion has to have a 2/3 vote to continue at this point.
Just a clarification, is this a motion to put it on the agenda or to pass the ordinance? I'm confused. Could you sort that out for me?
This is a motion for me to put it on the agenda so we can discuss it and hopefully approve. It's not an ordinance, a lease approval.
Mr. Chairman, my point of order. This new business that Alderman Bear is asking to be put on the agenda, per our aldermanic rules, every member of the board here should have this in front of them before the Board of Aldermen meeting started. So we at least have an opportunity to look at what it is that you want to put on the as for new business. I do not have in front of me any information, so I don't really know what it is that you're looking to put on this agenda under new business. So I think it would have been wise of you to have distributed this information before the board had met, so that we would have had the opportunity to look this over, and then, you know, we could absolutely look and see. So at this particular time, without this information in front of us, I think it's rather difficult for us to really decide whether or not we would like to add this to the agenda or not. Do you see what I'm getting at?
Alderman Victorelli, sorry. Through you to the chairman, I 100% understand your concerns about not having this piece of papers and all the papers involved in this. But I do believe that every one of us received this package on an overnight package last month so we could all review it. Unfortunately, it got ignored last month, so that's why I'm bringing it up this month. I do have copies with me tonight. If you'd like, give me a minute. I can make copies and hand them out to you tonight as well so you can refresh yourself on this. But to be honest, this is exactly why I went through the whole dissertation of explaining what my feelings on this is, because I was afraid that it would become a political thing, which it should not be a political thing, where you don't want to hear what's being proposed because I feel like you don't want to discuss it. So I'll make copies if you want, but you all had it before. But I really think that we should at least discuss this matter. And if you're opposed to it, that's fine. Just man up and say why you don't
Alderman Beer,
want it.
we could open this up for discussion under a, hang on 1 second. We could open this up for discussion under another heading, but right now you're under new business. In order for you to continue under new business, we have to take this. You want to put this on the agenda, it has to have a 2/3 vote to continue what you're referring to. So at this time, you're introducing this topic for the agenda. So we're going to
I was hoping to add it as a new business agenda item that could actually be an actionable thing that we could actually vote on whether or not to approve the lease that was before us, that is before us.
I discussed this with Alderman Gurman, that under committee reports, particularly MPI, which has to do with downtown business, we could open this up for discussion for as long as you are satisfied with the questions and answers. But if you're bringing this, if you want to bring this up on the agenda, to put it on the agenda tonight, we're going to have a 2/3 vote right now before we continue.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Mayor,
I think the resolution or the proposed resolution that's before you to add new business regards an 824 motion. Part of the background or the history of this patio proposal is about understanding the process. And the history, as I saw it, is that not before this particular business was purchased, but immediately after and on the heels of the purchase of this business, the owners did come to me on several occasions. I've probably had half a dozen different discussions and meetings with them, and I have been as consistent as I could. When the city, at least during my entire administration over the course of the last 4 years, intends to lease out city property or sell city property, we need to get the surrounding stakeholders the blessing, because I do not want to make one group happy and 5 or 6 or 7 or 8, as you heard this evening, upset. That's not good business for a city, to make one group happy and lots of others upset. So that has been my standard throughout the course of leasing or selling any city property. If someone wanted to come into City Hall and say, Mr. Chairman, I want you to lease me the mayor's office or the city attorney's office or this auditorium in City Hall, this is city land, this is city property. If someone stood up tonight and said, will you make a motion, it couldn't happen, because there is a process. This can't start at the Board of Aldermen. If the Board of Aldermen approved this evening in 824, before the Planning and Zoning Board did that, this decision would be null and void. There's state case law to support that. I have explained to the representatives of Eli's, the owners of Eli's, the process. All leases are negotiated with the city attorney and the mayor's office, because ultimately we dictate the terms and conditions of any leases. For this particular parcel, there has not been any discussion about terms and leases because we first need to get the buy-in of city stakeholders. This community is, again, at the heart of any decision that we as a board, or you as a board of aldermen have to make, and certainly that I make as mayor. And it would be easy to say yes to every person or every organization, no matter how well-intentioned they are, to say yes for everything. But sometimes good government means saying either no, or can you please do your homework? Can you please make sure that you engender yourselves to those people who are objecting now, and maybe over time, or maybe based on some history, you'll get them to come around. That is what I have represented on a consistent basis every single time that I've met with the folks from Eli's. If this is something that's good for the community, I'm not going to stand in its way. But again, this has to be something that's good for the community. It can't just be good for one entity and have them bulldoze this through, because that's not good government. If this board does approve an 824 lease this evening before planning and zoning does, again, it would be void. That's something that is part of the process. One thing about running a business is whatever you do, you have to understand the process. You have to take the time to be thoughtful, to do your homework. And that's not what's before us right now. And that would be something that I would suggest to any one of you, any business owner in Milford, any community-minded person in Milford, that they do have to do their homework before they come in front of this board, because, again, there are consequences.
Mr. Chair, is this open to discussion then on this? The mayor just went on with a soliloquy. So,
Mr. Chairman, a motion to put on the agenda is a debatable item.
Okay, so it's open to discussion. Okay.
Alderman Frank Smith.
If the motion to put new business on by a 2/3 vote is a debatable motion, then I think we can discuss what Alderman Beer had set out to do, is to open this up for discussion. I would prefer that, I have no objection to presenting it. I think the mayor has outlined very clearly what the legal implications of this, because we know tomorrow night the Planning and Zoning Board will be considering a motion for an 824 for this particular property. Since we're talking about it now, I've heard the arguments on both sides tonight. I have certainly a great appreciation for some of the positions that Mrs. Jago put forth and other people that addressed us tonight. I also understand that Mr. Giardo, the property owner, the business owner, also bought the property with certain understandings about it that were accorded to the previous owner that don't seem to be accorded to him. And I also feel that there is some justification in his desire to put this put this petition forward, whether it's through the Planning and Zoning Board. But I think institutionally it should be going before the Planning and Zoning Board, not before our board at this time. I could be swayed either way. I think we should move on Alderman Beer's motion to introduce it, and if it is, we can further this discussion and have a further debate. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Alderman Shaw.
Yeah, if I may, I mean, this has obviously been circling around, but I have to agree with Alderman Smith. It seems inappropriate in a way, not that we're discussing, but that we're discussing it now before the Planning and Zoning Board has reviewed it as an 8-24. I don't know, I understand the impetus and the frustration about wanting to get it to this board, but what I don't understand is what we would possibly be able to accomplish tonight via vote, when tomorrow the first thing on the agenda, the very first thing on the Planning and Zoning event, is the very 8-24. And even further, I mean, how can we even review a lease prior to even an 8-24 at Planning and Zoning? Again, I understand the stress that the, I'm going to call you applicant, but in this case has. I understand the frustration around the neighborhood, but I don't understand. We're discussing something that will be before an independent board tomorrow, and will be probably decided by this time on an 8-24. And I will just impress, I think it's inappropriate to go ahead of the Planning and Zoning Board on this discussion.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do understand that this is on P&Z tomorrow, and I was just hoping that we could save another month of delay, because I believe he started this process in August of 2014. It's August 2015. So I guess my question is through you, Mr. Chairman, through to our city attorney. If this board approved, in theory, that we would allow the mayor and city attorney to enter into this lease agreement that we were to approve tonight, is that in fact going to be null and void if we were to approve it on the concept that it gets the approval tomorrow? Could you, in theory, legally negotiate this lease or effectuate this lease on Wednesday?
Chairman Petro, through you to Alderman Beer, no. You can't. It's cart before the horse. You need 824. This is a different lease. This is what I told Mr. Amon. It's a different lease. It's different parties. Okay? 824 needs a planning and zoning referral, either positive or negative. If it's negative, you need a 2/3 majority of this board. I think you're playing semantics in terms of a theory. You would have to come back after planning and zoning had heard it. That's what the case law says. It's how the statute has been interpreted.
Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, in my point of order, I would wish, I would move that that you would rule against this motion to be taken up by this board as a vote due to the fact that we have no paperwork in front of us, so that we don't know what it is that we're even moving to try to put on the board as new business. So we don't have anything here. We're talking about a lease agreement that I don't have before me, in front of me. So I am not prepared to bring before the board the vote to bring new business before us without having known what it is that we're trying to bring. Obviously, somebody forgot to put the paperwork out before the meeting started, but so be it. We're putting the cart before the buggy. So I would ask you, Mr. Chairman, with all due respect, for you to not allow this motion to be put before this board, because the paperwork is not before us, and it is also putting the cart before the buggy.
I'm going to, excuse me, I'm going to allow a discussion because this is what we wanted to do, but I'm not going to accept a motion at this time. We're going to have an open discussion, what Alderman Beer has brought up. Alderman Vitale.
Just for clarity's sake, either to Mr. Chair, through you, to the mayor or the city attorney, this goes beyond to the P&Z tomorrow night. If it's approved, whatever that might mean, if it's approved, it would automatically be on our agenda next month. Okay, that's number one. Number two, if it's not approved by P&Z, does it just die off? We can still get it on the agenda and we could override the P&Z?
Mr. Chair, through you to Alderman Vitale, yes, it will be heard tomorrow night as it's placed on the agenda. The P&Z, it's an advisory role that they have. If they vote in a favorable recommendation, it goes before this board in a simple majority, carries the day. If it's an unfavorable report, then a supermajority is required by this board to overcome the unfavorable vote.
So either way, at its maximum, it will be on next month's agenda.
Mr. Chair, through you to Alderman Vitale, if they take a vote, if they table it, it would not be on the aldermanic agenda.
Other than tabling, it should be. Correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Alderman Anderson.
Through you, with everything that's been said, I would like to suggest, if Alderman Beer were open to it, to withdraw the item this evening. Thank you.
Actually, Alderman Anderson, you really don't have to do that because I'm not allowing the motion. Thank you anyways. As I mentioned before, is there any more discussion? We have an Alderman Gorman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, I just want to reiterate what Alderman Vitale said, and just to make sure it was on the agenda for next month, so the applicant could be really be assured that it will be there after the vote tomorrow night, regardless whether it's up or down if it's not tabled.
Mr. Chair, through you to Alderman Gurman, that is correct.
Okay, the discussion is over. Mr. Alderman Vecchiarelli, agenda item number 10.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the consideration of budget memo transfer number 15 and 16, funds 10 FY 15.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 11, there are no refunds. Alderman, reports of standing committees. Are there any reports of standing committees? Alderman Frank Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Ordinance Committee met tonight to consider two proposed ordinances. The first of those, an ordinance establishing Chapter 18, Article 7, Section 18-90.2 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Milford, Planning and Zoning Board Consultants. This ordinance, Mr. Chairman, takes into account the establishment of reasonable fees for processing applications where particular professional services are required, and that those applications can be paid for by the applicant. This particular ordinance was recommended unanimously to the full board with revisions. Those revisions included the scope of those applicants being larger, having impact or significant size in those developments, which was included in the beginning of the ordinance. There was also an amendment to subsection 8, adding consultation with the city planner and otherwise. And then finally, in subsection C, a statement in the middle of that particular section where the amount of these monies would be held in escrow was struck and was put in that the account would be set up as a special revenue fund and maintained by the finance director. These amendments are recorded with the recording secretary, and we, as the ordinance committee, present it with a favorable recommendation, and I'd like to make that as a motion to the full board.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, can we have a 5-minute recess, please?
5-minute recess.
Thank you.
Let's try to hold it to 5 minutes, please. Is there any more discussion on the motion?
Point of order. Kathy's not here.
Here she is. Once again, is there any more discussion on the motion? There was such a long recess. Did you forget what the motion was?
Right now.
No, we're under discussion, and then you called a 5-minute recess. So we'll continue the discussion, and then we're going to vote on it. So is there any more discussion? Alderman Gurman?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I guess I'm just really confused here. I know we made some adjustments to this, and I just need clarification. There's got to be a measurement, some kind of measurement mechanism to, I don't know, whether it's a number of units, 6 units, or a dollar amount, or there's got to be something that's just very vague, and I think it leaves too much room for interpretation. And I'm confused on how to word it, but I can think of maybe just adding units to it, 6 units or more, or maybe a dollar amount. I don't know. But it's not clear to me the way it's written right now, and I can't accept that.
Alderman Frank Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In discussing it during the recess, I understand Alderman Gurman's concern that the new amended language, which defines the scope as being requiring special review because of the impact or because of the complexity of it, I think in the end, if we try to tighten and to define this too narrowly, we would have the reverse effect of actually opening it up to alternative interpretations as far as what represents a major development in terms of scope. If we put units on it, it may not in fact be a real estate proposition. It may in fact be, as I mentioned, somebody wanted to put in a football stadium. Obviously it would have the same concerns. We would be liable to get the same kind of special type of consultation to study the safety and health impacts of such a proposal. I think the new language that was referred and adopted by the Ordinance Committee covers that, and I think to the point that the Planning and Zoning Board, as being the final arbiter of that type of interpretation about what represents the complexity or size of the project, are an elected body that are in a good position to do that. I think we can put our full faith in them to adjudicate these things properly and fairly. So I would move that we take the vote on the new revised ordinance as it was proposed. Thank you.
Alderman Beer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you. This proposed ordinance somehow doesn't seem business friendly. I don't know how we're making more layers of fees and encumberancing businesses and developers, people that spend money to create jobs, keep taxes flowing. Is this really a fair ordinance? And how do we regulate it? I don't see any defining language in this. I don't know if a particular P&Z person, has a problem with an applicant. Can they unfairly make somebody go out and spend $30,000 on fees? Or if someone doesn't like a certain project, can we make them spend extra money on fees? My question is, why do we need this ordinance? Why are we adding fees on top of fees to get things done? Maybe I'm missing the point of the ordinance. Can you just explain it again?
Mr. Mayor.
Through you to Alderman Beer, this is an ordinance that we proposed to your board a little over a year ago. It was specifically to even the playing fields so that our local land use boards, in particular our zoning board and our inland wetlands board, would be able to hire those same experts that the applicants for large, complex applications hire, soil scientists and traffic engineers. Right now, there is no mechanism for us to hire and have those applicants pay for it. So over the course of the last year, you've seen many complex applications come through the Planning and Zoning Board, come through our land use boards, and you have seen this entire auditorium packed with people begging and pleading for additional tools for our land use boards to be able to pull out of their tool chest. Because right now, the playing field is not equal. The playing field certainly needs to be leveled, and this is what this resolution, this ordinance that's before you this evening intends to do. Again, over the course of the last year, you've seen exactly what we discussed back in May of 2014 when this resolution, this ordinance proposal was initially before your board or before the ordinance committee's board. And it would be my recommendation, be my strong suggestion that you adopt this because, again, this is only one tool that we have, but we have to play the cards that we're given.
Alderman Giannattasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, I guess the concern with my caucus is that we don't want this to be misused in respect to smaller jobs, and I know that's why we discussed this at the ordinance committee level, and we amended it to be more complex jobs, development. I guess if I could, I don't know if this is the appropriate time, refer to the director, and I don't know, maybe he can give us some reassurance that this is going to be handled in a very delicate manner. I guess, we're all concerned about smaller scale jobs. We don't want to, burden the smaller local businessmen that develop in the town, but we are aware of, other concerns that may arise with these bigger, complex jobs. So maybe you can give us your thoughts.
Good evening. If I could start out, we're right now in the process of constructing the ShopRite over on Cherry Street, and that building is what's called in building code terms a threshold building. The state building code requires for buildings that have a certain number of people, I believe it's over 1,000, certain spans, I think they're 150 feet, a number of other criteria, I think 24 bedroom units, a number of criteria would define a project as a threshold building. And what the state building code then says is local building inspectors, you require the applicant, the developer, to go out and hire a third-party engineer to verify that what is obviously complex engineering, just by virtue of the size of these projects, to be reviewed by a third party. That third party gets signed, accepted by the building officials, and then gets paid for by the applicant. That's just the code. It's required to do that for projects of a certain size. I see this as, and again, right now under our inland wetlands regulations, we have the ability, and we have required developers to pay for a third-party review for environmental scientists, for soil scientists, as the projects become more complex. I see this as doing the same thing. The difference being here, and I think this is the concern, is that we don't have the defined thresholds that the building code has, 150 feet or dollar value or what have you. But again, I think we're trying to encompass a number of considerations, be it traffic consultants, be it environmental consultants, be it engineers. I don't see as it being possible to really, satisfy the intent of this and establish quantifiable levels of traffic engineering, of number of apartments, what have you. So I think that's what we're trying to, I guess, establish this by saying we're going to clearly anything that's going in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission would have to be going in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission under a special exception or a special permit in order to even be reviewed by this. So your typical site plan approval, which is essentially an administrative process going in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission, I don't think would qualify for this type of third-party review. Beyond that, though, I don't know how we could really define the other criteria other than using just some logic and some common sense in terms of the complexity and what our internal staff is able to take in information from these consulting engineers and be able to review on their own, as opposed to at some point saying this is getting too complex, we ought to be getting in the third party to review these considerations. Am I answering your question? Or?
Alderman Beer.
I understand the concept
that there's times when the city would use an outside consultant to validate another consultant from the applicant's findings. And I'm in favor of that. If it's something that, you know, we need to question and we don't have the ability of questioning that, I think we should definitely have that expertise at our disposal to do that. My only problem is, how's it going to be governed? How's it going to be monitored? Is the zoning board going to vote on it by majority to say that this is needed? Secondly, what's the time frame for this third-party consultant to do the report and report their findings? You know, if we send it out to a consultant and they take 6 months to do their report, is that fair? I just want to be fair to the applicants, but at the same time, I understand we need some teeth to protect some overdevelopment. And we understand there's definitely a major overdevelopment happening here in Milford. So if we can somehow fight it, that's great. But at the same time, you know, if we do all these things, in your opinion, is this going to help us win any of these battles? I guess that's the question. Are we going to win any of these battles by doing this, you think? Or at least maybe deter some people from bringing these things to us?
I don't know if that's the point. I believe the point is to essentially have the applicant, have our staff be able to show up at either the Planning and Zoning Commission meetings or the Inland Wetlands hearings well-armed, I guess, well-equipped with the objective set of answers that our boards need to make the decisions. I don't think it's necessarily being done to shoot down a project. It's being done to give the public the assurance that we've done the diligence on any of these questions.
Alderman Giannattasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Griffith, you mentioned that we're already using this mechanism in the Inland Wetlands Department.
Yes.
At the Ordinance Committee level, I voted against that ordinance because that is exactly what I was told. So I'm a little unsure why that is added on to this. If we're already hiring outside consultants for soil tests and things like that, why are we now adopting an ordinance for something that's already being practiced?
I think specifically because it is working to the city's advantage in terms of allowing specifically the Inland Wetlands Agency to call in on complex projects the expertise that is necessary to enable specifically Mary Rose to go in front of the board and make these put forth the recommendations of these consultants. The Planning and Zoning Commission and the Planning and the City Planner doesn't have that ability right now. So we are looking to have that option open to them.
Just to follow up, Mr. Chairman, I guess it comes down to money because everything for some reason or another comes down to money. So if we're already doing this, how are we funding these consultants at the Inland Wetlands level? Is the applicant paying for them?
Yes, the way it stands right, as opposed to the way the ordinance is written here, in which we are estimating the amount and then taking in a deposit of 150% of that amount and then paying the consultants out of that. What is happening is that specifically the Inland Wetlands Enforcement Officer is taking in a proposal from a consultant, notifying the applicant of that proposal and those proposed fees, and taking in the deposit to pay for that amount.
So once it's identified that it's beyond our expertise, then yes, this is the fashion that's carried out. So why can't we just implement that with the land use but not have it as an ordinance? Why can't we just use it the way that it's being used for inland wetlands? Why do we need to have all these strings attached where, it's more of a internal thing to me with the office and the staff, and more or less keep it away from the boards, because these elected boards, they come and go. Mm-hmm. And some boards are, more aggressive than others, and that could really, work against, a lot of these applications. That's our concern. So why can't, can you recommend that possibly we maybe start in that fashion and maybe table this ordinance in its entirety, and maybe we can just facilitate it the way that it's being facilitated in the inland wetlands. That seems like a reasonable thing, and let's, test the water, so to speak, and at least we're recognizing it and we're being proactive. But before we make it a legislative, law, I think we should at least try it and see what the positives and the negatives are, rather than just adopt it and then have everyone, kind of, rally behind it. I mean, let's just take it for what it really is, on an as-need basis. What are your thoughts on that?
It's knowing, again, what the objective is, and my objective is to allow my staff to be able to go out and get this expertise.
Which we would allow that, yeah. And you can still have the applicant pay for it in the same way that you're doing it now, but why does it need to be law?
I'm not sure if maybe...
Mr. Chair, if I may
yes.
address some of the comments by Alderman Giantassio. Connecticut General Statute 8-1C authorizes municipalities to set a fee schedule for land use boards. That's the enabling legislation that has allowed us to draft this ordinance that's before you, these ordinances that are before you tonight, that on a quick Google search research, over 30 municipalities, Branford, Madison, Westport, I know you know the names because I gave you all the other ones. In my mind, Inland Wetlands has been doing this for a number of years on their regs. It's not in our regulatory scheme for our planning and zoning board for the fee schedule. It's got to be done by ordinance. That's the way 8-1C of our Connecticut General Statutes has set forth boards and commissions to require applicants to pay for consultant fees. So I think the reason why Inland Wetlands is before you tonight is to codify the practice that's been done and to authorize the Planning and Zoning Board to do what Inland Wetlands has been doing in-house via their regulations. I hope that's responsive to your inquiries, but in terms of a basis as to why, it's to codify what's been going on in Inland Wetlands, and to be transparent and to follow the statutory protocol that's set forth by 8-1C.
I appreciate your explanation. I understand that, but I guess, Attorney Burcham, what I'm asking is how can we adopt what we're already doing in the Inland Wetlands Department and do the same thing in the Planning and Land Use Department? Do we need to do that through a fee schedule? I mean, I'm looking for another way to do it without adopting an ordinance.
The law requires us to do it via ordinance for planning and zoning.
Oh, so planning and zoning has its own requirement
for the fee schedule, yes.
Where Inland Wetlands does not.
Done it by regulation.
Okay, thank you. That's clear. Thank you.
Alderman Beer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Attorney Burcham. So the ordinance before us is similar to the other 30 municipalities. And do you know if any of the other municipalities have any? I mean, my biggest hang up on this is just a quantifying thing, and maybe just give me some assurance I don't need that quantifier. Maybe just so I could. I'd like to vote for this, but I just want to vote for it so that I know it's going to be fairly implemented for the little guy, the big guy, everybody.
Chairman Vitro, through you to Alderman Beer. Of 30 ordinances that I looked at, I would say a third of them have qualifiers that speak to size, complexity, potential impact, in terms of when they would invoke that. The other 2/3 do not have any qualifiers. It just authorizes the board, commission, or official to require an applicant to pay for a consultant.
Beccarelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wholeheartedly support this ordinance. And when I see the number of people that have been coming out in all different neighborhoods throughout this city and saying, geez, what's happening here? How come this is going on? You know, what more can we do to get involved in this? And this is something right here. This is something more to get involved in those things. When the police department says, well, we could do a traffic study, but we don't have traffic engineers. We send out our policemen and they see how many cars drive by, and that's not what this here is about. This is going to give the tools to have a real traffic engineer study and study safety. Safety is really our primary concern. And this will give us a lot of other tools also. So when I look at all the people that have been coming out, and God knows you know what I'm talking about, I want to make sure that those people in the city of Milford have been given, our departments have been given the most tools that they can possibly have to work for their best interest. And that's what this is about. And so that's why I'm going to support this, because, you know, it's going to help all those people that come before the planning and zoning, inland wetlands, and they're stuck. They can't seem to maybe get some of the things done that they would like to get done because we don't have this ordinance. This ordinance is going to help those people better understand safety in their neighborhoods and the impact that any kind of development that we do in this city will be better understood. And you know, I'm going to tell you right now, I've always been a person that has supported reasonable development in our city. I mean, we want to prosper and give people, you know, opportunities to make money on their property. But when you look around and see what's happening in Milford, it seems like so often the people don't have very little voice in some of the things that are going on in their neighborhood. This here is going to help those people. It's going to give our land use manager more tools at his disposal to make sure that the conformity of, and they're all listed right here, not one or two, but several. And what? We have 30 communities already that are doing this, and we're going to say, no, I don't think so? Well, I got to tell you right now, I'm in favor of it, 30 other communities are in favor of it, and all those people that come before the Planning and Zoning Board, these are more tools that they're going to have for their elected officials to help them. Thank you.
Alderman Gurman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. So if I'm a small or a homeowner and I want to put an addition on my home, and maybe I'm encroaching on a setback or a wetland, or maybe it's a bigger addition than the neighborhood requires or allows, and it gets complex. Now, am I going to be required to, I don't know, to get another architectural drawing or wetlands special report or something?
No. I mean, so specifically the typical residential project, new construction, additions, alterations, would not be going in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission at all. If, again, in some cases with camera views and with areas right adjacent to Long Island Sound, they are going in front, but the precedent has not been set in which any kind of special review would be necessary. More often than not, the more complex reviews for houses that are along Long Island Sound are getting referred for free to the DEP, and they come back to us with comments literally within a week. And again, they're objective comments. They're not always necessarily favorable, but we do have a process for reviewing those in place already. Similarly, the wetlands, projects that go before inland wetlands and that are getting the special consultants, the third-party reviews, are I'm going to say, never been single-family residences nor small commercial developments. They've typically been, the large-scale developments. So in answer to your question, no, I don't see that happening at all.
But you're not limited to that. I mean, it leaves it to interpretation, so it could happen.
I could see in some very special conditions that if the intensity of the use of of a residential unit on a piece of land was such that it did require, it's very seldom that they would require that level of engineering and study. I mean, typically, residence doesn't require any kind of traffic studies. It's typically not requiring any kind of geotechnical analyses or anything like that. And that would be the only way, or the only reason why we would look to have any of these third-party reviews, is if the first-party review was required by our regulations. So typically, it's not happening.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, again, this is to ensure development, proper development. What we have an issue with in the city of Milford are those applications that have the potential for jeopardizing health and safety. We do have a very good reputation that has been improved upon over the course of the last 2 years in terms of our building department, in our permitting departments. I have been getting lots and lots of compliments that the process has been more consistent and has been more expeditious. We really have gone through a sea change. I mean, folks that have built everything from decks to large additions to new businesses coming into town, they have remarked, we have the second busiest building department in the entire state of Connecticut. Even though we're a relatively medium-sized to smaller city, we have more projects and more proposals. We don't want to limit that. We want progress. We want good progress, though, and we want to make sure that those applications that are more complex, that do perhaps jeopardize a portion of our community, certainly are reviewed in an appropriate way so that the field is leveled.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Alderman Shaw.
Thanks. I'm sorry. There's a couple of things that have been said. I just would like to clarify. You talked a little bit about, this is about also empowering an elected board, which is the planning and zoning. They're elected to represent their communities, and it's about giving them tools. And I don't think that elected boards act capriciously, that they act in harmony with their constituents, just like any of our board. And there's just been a couple of comments, and having flowed through the Planning and Zoning Board and see how hard they work, it's important that they have the tools and that they can be responsive to their community, including those economic drivers, including builders, and including their constituents that are part of that community. And I don't want to forget them in this discussion, nor do I want to push them aside and say that this decision should be made by an appointee instead. I think it's better always when you have an elected board representing. And that's what this statute does, and it gives them an important tool. And I trust that they're not going to be capricious in how they interpret this, because it is their community as well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Alderman Casey.
Through you, to the director. Yes, this is it does allow the zoning board to appoint these consultants, but it also allows the director to require a consultant. Is there anything in there that really prevents like a relatively modest development that's really in reality not that complex, but having it being identified as being complex and essentially requiring such consulting fees that are so expensive that is essentially your office is basically serving a de facto denial, because say a modest development's only costs $20,000, you're going to require $30,000, $40,000 worth of consultant fees. Is there anything that's going to address that to ensure that there's not really abuse of discretion that's going to
you're going to actually act in, good faith that it's going to only be limited to legitimately large, complex projects?
As I read this ordinance, and again, it's not terribly detailed, which I think is a good thing, but any time that our office would, and I can't speak for the commissions, but anytime our office would make a recommendation to hire a consultant, it would be for a specific aspect of the engineering that's required for this project. And so it would be a well-defined scope of work that we'd be looking for, and it would be based on a specific reason. This is why it is so complex that we can't review it internally. This is why it is so complex that we can't rely on just your engineer's report. So again, it wouldn't be an arbitrary, requiring a traffic study, for instance.
And just a brief follow-up. Look, we have a city engineer, we have a police department. We have people who go through these departments anyway before it comes to planning and zoning. So it gets vetted. Mm-hmm. In your estimation, I mean, I'm not trying to hold you to it, but how often do you really see this being used? I mean, this is really supposed to be reserved for the kind of the unique projects that really aren't, that go beyond the expertise, is it fair to say, of our city departments that we already have, that the taxpayers are already paying for, that generally vet these, most projects and most special exceptions and things like that that come to planning and zoning anyway? In other words, how often do you envision this is going to be an issue when we already have, staff that's going to be able to address these issues, or should be able to address some of these issues, or departments?
I don't know how to quantify in the past year, but I know there have been, let's say, 3, 4 applications that have come in which, again, data is presented to us. We're distributing it to the various departments. We're distributing it to the various state agencies, getting their comments and feedback. But I think the feeling is, not just by us, but also by the Planning and Zoning Commission specifically, that a lot of the information that's been given to them is, I'll say, over our heads, that we would like to have a third-party expert reviewing these things. Like I said, I don't know where to draw that threshold, where to draw that line in terms of the complexity, but I know that we've seen them in the past, and I anticipate we're going to see them again, and this is the objective, is to be able to, when we do see those conditions, that we have the tools to, the ability to go out and get that third-party review.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Roll call vote, Madam Secretary.
Alderman Anderson? Alderman Beer?
Yes.
Alderman Casey?
Yes.
Alderman Fontana? No. Alderman Gurman? No. Alderman Ginatasio?
Yes.
Alderman Golden? Alderman Hardiman? Yes. Alderman Kubek? Yes. Alderman Shaw? Alderman Smith? Yes. Alderman Stanford? Alderman Veccarelli? Yes. Alderman Vitro?
Yes.
Alderman Vitale? 13 yes, 2 no, Mr. Chairman.
13-2, motion passes. Alderman Frank Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Ordinance Committee met earlier this evening and took up a second ordinance establishing Chapter 18, Article 12, Section 18-166.2 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Milford. This is a similar ordinance we've been discussing in the previous motion that codifies the coverage of reasonable cost for third-party consultants on various types of development proposals in the city. The ordinance was adopted and recommends to the full board by a majority vote without amendment. Again, this is something that's being codified, but under state statute has been in effect in the Inland Wetlands Agency for several years, and it's being codified now as an ordinance. As I said, it's being recommended in its original form, and, I'd like to make that as a motion to the full board.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Are there any other standing committees? No more standing committee reports? Are there any committee reports at all? Alderman Frank Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With your permission, Mr. Chairman, and with the indulgence of my colleagues, I know it's late, and I promise you I won't take long, but as the liaison to both the Library Board and one of the liaisons, and as the liaison to the Fine Arts Council, I had put some information in front of your microphones to describe and adopt a mural project, and I'd like to just present it. I have a copy of it here at the podium. Please excuse the angle of this. I'm doing this more for the camera than anything, but as I mentioned, as a liaison to the Library Board, I was contacted by the Library Director, Christine Angeli, several weeks ago. There is a committee that really came out of the Library Board, but also the Fine Arts Council, that is seeking to restore several works of art that are owned by the city of Milford. Probably the most significant is this WPA mural, which used to hang in the entranceway of the old Central Grammar School. When Central Grammar was closed as a school and then ultimately demolished in 1986, the fine arts director for the school district at the time, and Bill Medic were able to remove what remained, the remnants of this particular mural. Frank Vespi was the Board of Education Arts Coordinator. They were able to salvage this mural, which what you're seeing here is an actual photograph of it. It's going to be on display tomorrow at the Parsons Center in room 125 if anyone's interested in looking at it. They are also the board which has convened to try to restore this particular mural for an installation in the Milford Public Library on the elevator column. If you know where the elevator is, one side of it would be just the perfect size for this. This thing measures 7 feet high by about 5 feet across, so it's a fairly significant work of art, and it is an example of American regionalism. It was created under the WPA, the Works Progress Administration. As it says in your packet, there were 2 artists involved in it who painted it. Frank Grodkowski, who is a designer, and Louis Agostini. Some biographical information about them is in there in your packet. This is something that's being funded by private funds, and in fact, members of this board, the Mural Restoration Committee, have established a fundraising website under Indiegogo.com, which is like Kickstarter. It was just put up today. If you go online, Indiegogo.com, and look up WPA Mural Conservation, you can donate to this. And I just wanted to present this to the full board so they understand, since it is something of a municipal interest. This particular mural depicts the old Plymouth Church, which was raised back in the 1950s. It also shows what the city historians have determined as the Sanford Bristol House, which still stands at the bottom of North Street, but it's depicted here. It's not geographically correct. The people in this, the name of this is "They Shall Not Pass This Way Again," was allegedly the title above it, but in talking to Dick Platt today, he says he thinks it's "They Shall Never Pass This Way Again," which apparently appeared at the top of the mural years ago. Right now, as I said, it was salvaged from behind a filing cabinet in the Board of Education department, and for 30 years it's languished. There's a lot of money involved in trying to restore this, and they're just trying to begin this process of raising funds for it. I just again presented to the board. I apologize to people on this side of the room, but I wanted the MGAT cameras to see it, and as many of you to see it. I'll turn it around later for the audience to get a look at it. It's quite a remarkable work of art. It's very specific to our region. There are very few of these WPA murals around. There used to be one in the old Devon grammar. There used to be one in the old Walnut Beach grammar that had been lost forever. There are no others. There might have been one at the post office, at the old post office across the street, but this is the only one that we still have. So again, I appreciate your indulgence. I just wanted to present this to the board. This is something that I think is worthwhile for the city to get behind as a volunteer effort, and hopefully within the next year or so we can get this restored and have it hanging in the library, which I think it'll be a beautiful and historic addition to that building. Thanks, everyone.
Mr. Chairman.
Are there any, excuse me, any more committee reports?
Mr. Chairman.
Alderman Anderson.
I voted with the majority and on the last motion, and I would like to ask for its reconsideration, please, for the purposes of offering an amendment.
You want to make an amendment on the last motion?
Correct.
What is your amendment?
To be consistent with the ordinance that was adopted for planning and zoning, to include the language that rather than the funds being held in escrow, they be held in a special revenue account.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. City Attorney, do we need a motion to revisit a motion?
It's a motion for reconsideration is what Alderman Anderson made.
For it? No, I mean, do we have to vote for you to make that? I'm not sure. Because that came up a while back when I tried to do something in reconsidering, and it wasn't allowed by the chair.
Alderman Smith.
My consideration is, Mr. Chair, I got this to the city attorney to make a decision on this.
You weren't recognized, Mr. Vitale.
Point of
Alderman
order.
Smith
It was a
is
point of order.
recognized. Alderman Smith is recognized.
I just wanted to just submit, Ray, I think this is part of the revised ordinance, was the amending the language about escrow and have a special revenue account for the finance director. I think it's in it. I don't know if the Madam Secretary has the language. I thought that was included in the revised ordinance.
I don't believe it is, and so therefore I move for reconsideration.
Oh, Mr. Chairman.
Madam Secretary, do you think you could read that back, that portion, to see if that's in fact incorporated? Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Alderman Giannatasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to be clear. I think through you to Alderman Smith and Alderman Anderson, I think what Alderman Anderson is proposing is the second ordinance on the inland wetlands, which we did not amend. He wants to show parity with the land use ordinance and the inland wetlands.
It's exactly what I stated.
A point of clarification, that's all.
I apologize. I thought I didn't realize that.
Thank you, Alderman Giannatasio, for the clarification. So we don't need to go back on the minutes. So the motion's been made and seconded on the amendment. Any discussion on the amendment? Well, we have to, first of all, we have to revisit it. Reconsideration, we'll have to revisit for reconsideration. Any discussion? Alderman Giannatasio.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chairman, at the ordinance committee level meeting, excuse me, Alderman Anderson, I'm actually on your side on this one, so, all right, I'm not debating it. I'm just making the point that when I amended the first ordinance, we did not amend the second one, and we'd like to amend it now. So they'll be the same. So we want to put the same language in, and we want to strike out the same, right? Okay.
And a motion to reconsider is non-debatable, Mr. Chairman.
So the second motion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
So, Mr. Chairman, through
This
you,
motion is made and seconded.
I would like to offer the following amendment. In section 18 dash, is it 184-2? In section 18-166.2, consultants, section C, strike the words "in escrow" and "in lieu thereof," insert "in a special revenue account." I so moved.
To be created by the Finance Department. Was that seconded? Motion was-
And I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, where in sections A and B, where the Finance Department is mentioned, to also include similar language.
Okay, so the motion was made and seconded. Any more discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Was that on the amendment or the whole motion?
That was the motion. It was amendment to the motion. We already voted on the original motion. He just amended it. We just voted on the amendment.
He made an amendment to the motion, which we approve the amendment. Now, therefore, do we have to approve the whole thing, the whole motion?
Motion as amended, I'm sorry. So now we're going to vote on the whole motion, the amended motion, actually. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Yes.
I know it's late, but if I could just get, I'm just curious, a motion to reconsider, when do you pull that out? Like on the same night? How much time do you have to reconsider something? I'm being serious.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, reconsideration can come up on before you take any other action. So if there's going to be reconsideration, it has to be immediately following action that has been taken. And the motion has to be from someone who is in the majority, having voted in the affirmative on that motion.
There is no executive session. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, a point of personal privilege.
Alderman Greta Stanford. Yes, ma'am.
I want to thank the board for all their kindnesses to me during my recuperation. The cards, the flowers were absolutely beautiful. Some rumors are going around that I might leave the board in the aftermath of this accident. Nothing could be further from the truth. I am already walking with a cane part-time and have been assured that soon I'll be putting on my high-heeled dancing shoes. I represent the 1st District, not because I believe I'm the only one that can do that. There are others who do that and probably can do it better. No, I do that because I represent people who are not only my friends and my neighbors, they are my constituents, and my constituents' concerns are my concerns. Noisy neighborhoods, vandalism at Eisenhower Park, and affordable housing businesses who come from out of state to make big bucks at the expense of the safety and health of our citizens. Once again, thank you all for caring. It helped in my recovery. Thank you.
Thank you, Greta. It must have been all those prayers that we made for you. That's what it must have been. Motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.